Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Cindy DeHart of Wasatch Front Life, a realtor with Exit Realty Success. Cindy, welcome to the program.
Great, Mike. It's great. Thanks for having me.
Hey, you're welcome. I want to learn from what you do and how you serve your clients. But I want to find out a little bit about I always love when I talk to people in real estate. They always have a variety of backgrounds and what got them into real estate. So what's your story of getting into the real estate industry?
Great. Well, my real estate background goes back a long ways. My dad was always an investor with apartments and different things. And as the oldest child, it would drag me along to clean them and do different, whatever needed to be done. And I kind of just was always interested and curious about different buildings he was buying. And I'd be with him and kind of hang out and just kind of really had an interest for that. I went on to manage some of those apartments as I got older. And then originally I first started my licensed career in Arizona for over 10 years. I had just moved there with young kids, and it was a great way to get to know all of the area. The perfect fit for me with young, busy kids, because I like the social aspect of talking to people, and I really have always understood and been interested in real estate, but I could also juggle a lot of different things. So I really enjoyed getting to know that area of Arizona and my time there. I moved around a lot after that. I lived in Lexington, Kentucky for a while, then moved back to Utah, a couple different places down in Utah County, and now I'm up kind of on the border of the Salt Lake Davis County. So not only do I love helping my clients with selling and buying a home, but I've moved myself over 10 times as an adult. Wow. So I definitely have the understanding of moving as well.
Yeah, you mentioned your dad, and he did it right by having you partner with him, so to speak, or come alongside with him without making you hate, the real estate and, I got to clean the building. And, if he had, made you feel like, oh, this is some labor and really, really hard, you probably would have shied away from real estate, but he must have done it the right way. And you must have enjoyed, your time there, and then got into managing apartments. So you kind of saw real estate from, literally the ground up, but watching it also from kind of the behind the scenes look, right?
Yeah, it was good to see both how to do that and then how whatever kind of building came about to take on, an opportunity or something that was there so it was a lot of different kinds of properties, duplexes, apartments, large commercial, bank buildings, or a building that they did a lot of paper carry back then. And so it really was from the ground up from a lot of different angles. And I think it's given me the advantage in knowing how to help my clients, because every client has their own story. Every transaction has a lot of similarities from beginning to end, because there's legal things you have to do, but the story and the person involved and the goals behind it and the objectives you're trying to achieve for that client always have some nuances. And that is kind of really where I think that I excel for that with my clientele.
Yeah, and with a vast amount of experience, you can draw on learning this lesson and that lesson. And now when you're working with a client, you can speak from that area of experience, and that gives you some great confidence. So I know you, as a real estate professional, you work with all kinds of buyers, but let's talk a little bit about sellers. So you work with buyers and sellers, and guess what? A seller can be a seller and a buyer, because if they're selling their home, they might need to go buy something else. So let's start with sellers. What's the best way that they can start if you're thinking about selling a property? Maybe it's not last minute because you have to sell for some reason, but if they have some time, what are some of the things that they should be thinking about in preparation for meeting with you and getting their property ready for sale?
So one of the things I really try to get all my clients, both the sellers and the buyers, to understand is that I truly believe that real estate is an investment. I saw it back as a child growing up all through the years and stuff. But I also believe that there is always opportunity to be had in real estate. And the critical thing to do here is to find that opportunity for that particular client in whatever the current market is, because it's always out there, it exists. we all, you've heard it too from people all the time saying, oh man, I wish I would have bought that when you did.
Yeah.
That'd have been great. Or why didn't I buy that earlier or sooner? Most often people start listening to what I call the noise. So it's like market noise that's out there, is when they're ready to make a move or sell or purchase a property. They start listening to what the noise is that's out there. And really, unfortunately, that news is usually doomsday information, right? It's difficult to sell. It's impossible to buy. Interest rates are causing this, an upswing, a market stall. It just can make the average person paralyzed to make a decision. And I find that when I can sit down with my clients and address their concerns and answer their questions and just give them those real facts that help them what's going on, and then I like to listen to them. And this is kind of what so much of what I put with for my sellers is I want to be able to plan what it is you want to do, right? Because over the last few years, it's been a wild ride for sellers, and they can purchase, and unless they were going to purchase with that money, because they could sell and make a lot of money, but buying was really competitive. And so if they sold with the intention to move up, down, over, whatever, and couldn't get it figured out fast enough, then their money quickly was losing buying power. Yeah. And it was really kind of a scary thing for a lot of these sellers of, I should make this money and run. And it's like, but can you really? So, the facts about real estate being an investment and how serious sellers should take that is really where I start. So I start with discussing with the sellers what their end goal is, not how much you can sell the property for or how we can sell it or when or what it's going to cost you to reach that next goal, but finding what the opportunity is available to them, what they want to do, and executing a plan around that. So like any other agent, I've got information on how to get your house ready and sell tips and showings and open houses. But I start with a goal sheet about the investment, and then we'll focus and discuss where they are, what they want to be, what the timeline is, what concerns they have, because my goal is to try to uncover how we can capture the opportunity. Because remember, it exists in any market, and how we uncover what the challenges they have. And if I just come in with a market analysis and here's how you do your house and get it ready, then I've missed that. And if we're not able to leverage the opportunity that exists for my clients, that really is my superpower. And so I really want to talk about what the goals and stuff are for the sellers. And I really encourage them, I advocate to make an investment in real estate. Well, then if you're going to be the buyer and invest in it, you're going to be a seller at one point. And so, let me help you go over those plans, and let's figure what that is and how to leverage the money that you've made in that equity to your next property and how you go about that.
You unpacked a whole lot there, and I think we could spend about 4.5 hours on just that statement, which is amazing because you take a very, I will say, a very different approach than most, because it's like, let's just get her done. Here's the MLS and let's go and list it. And, well, you go, okay, we have to do those things. Any real estate professional will have access to and this tool and that tool, but let's just pause for a second and do what Stephen Covey, the popular author, used to say: begin with the end in mind. So where do you want to be? And what are those goals? And then now all of a sudden in that process, you may learn some really critical, interesting things that are so vital to that transaction that maybe another real estate professional might not have thought to ask. And it makes your interaction with that client that much better because you now have started off being that educator and advocate for their success. So can you think of a time that you've done that and maybe the couple said, you know what, we've done many transactions, but wow, because you asked us these questions, it really brought it to life in this way?
I'm actually, it's not somebody that has done a lot of transactions, but the one that comes to mind was obviously this recent market has been pretty crazy, and we had a young couple who hadn't been in their house very long, but it wasn't fitting their needs anymore because their family was growing. And so they wanted to sell it, but everything was selling. So they weren't worried about that. They were worried about what would happen. What do we do? How do we make this transaction? And I don't want to live with our parents forever. And, if we go rent something, what do we do with these dogs we have? And, those kind of things. And as we talked, I was able to uncover that they didn't have a lot. They're a pretty young family, and they didn't have a lot of investments, but they did have a couple of things. And so I was able to propose some strategies that we were able to take advantage of. so that we could make an offer on a house they really, really liked that they thought was going to sell out from under them because everything was selling so quick.
Yeah.
We were able to win an offer working with my buyer team that I have and then get their house sold. And we, you couldn't make a contingent offer in the last year practically.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to because we were able to uncover some things that we could leverage.
Wow.
And that's kind of part of my strategy with that is they didn't think they could do it. And they thought they were going to lose this, that they'd been watching this house and it came up for sale and they were like, oh no, we should have talked to you sooner. And I'm like, well, could we try this? Could we try that? And so not only is it the experience, but sometimes, I wouldn't have been able to do it without them. And because they had made good financial decisions and had some things we could work with, some tools, but it was out of the box in a way that, their compliment to me was like, oh, we would have never thought of that, you know? And it's like, that's a great compliment because you hire a realtor for a reason and you want that help to take advantage. And, that's why I always tell people, if there's opportunity in real estate, the statistics show it. If you're waiting, I don't know why, because it just keeps getting more expensive.
Yeah. And it's like you said a minute ago, I say this so many times to people that I consult with in business, like, hey, anybody out there can say we've got great customer service and we have a great widget or we do all of that. Your competitors say that, but let's go above and beyond. What's your competitive advantage? And when you can say my superpower is, really amping it up and elevating the experience to really uncover opportunities and then show you how to get them and tie those into your dream that we just discussed in real estate. And it's way more than just, I need to sell my house. Well, you can click a box and do that. But Cindy comes alongside and I show you how, wow. And then to have someone say, never would have thought of that. That's a client for life.
Yeah, I think so too. It's the most fun. I think it started out with me just wanting, selling or buying a house is so emotional for clients. And I think I started out just wanting to help. And then I learned that, wow, there's lots of ways to do this. And as I've been a lot of years in the business, I've learned a lot of different ways to do it. And as the market shifts, we keep all learning new ways to do things. And I think taking advantage of that opportunity is the power that I find in that quote that I tell people all the time is, I have this opportunity and you have this opportunity in the same market. And we need to know what those are. And you can't do it without a conversation. And if you're just going to do it the same way everybody else does it, you might be missing the opportunity because real estate's gone up a lot in the last few years and people that got in made money, but people that are waiting, I'm like, look, you can't possibly be saving enough money. It's going up too fast. Even that it's slowed down, it's gone fast. So let's get you in. Let's figure out, let's buy something that isn't your perfect house because it's moving away from you faster than you can. And trying to sell right now is not tricky. It's definitely still a seller's market, at least where I am. It's slowed down a little bit, but
it's always going to
sellers
change.
Still need to, it's always going to change, and they need to understand their goals to know, is now the time? Or if I'm only going to retire in 8 years, should I do it now? Should I wait?
Yeah.
What do I want to do for those 8 years? There's so much of that conversation that takes place with every seller that I have a marketing plan to sell your house. I have a market analysis. I can do those things, but every seller has their own goals. And,
have you ever heard of a client or someone go, oh, you were so lucky you got that property and that was so it reminds me of the old saying, luck is where opportunity meets preparation. So it's not lucky. They were prepared. They worked hard. They made wise decisions. They connected with, a professional real estate professional in their area. And then the opportunity presented itself and they were prepared and ready, took advantage of it, took action, didn't just sit around thinking about it and have paralysis by analysis. And you can't call that luck. That's just preparation and taking action. So I think that's a really neat mindset that you work with your clients on.
Well, thanks. I would like to think most of my clients really like it as well. I mean, I think it's a different approach. There's a lot of ways to sell your house. And I feel like I can sell it as well as anyone else, better than most. But I think the advantage is there's an end game, and you don't just want to sell the house. You have to live somewhere. And real estate, the other part of that real estate is there's always opportunity, and the real estate is an investment. Is that you can't live on your stocks and bonds, right? So like your house should always be your biggest investment. And for most people, it is their biggest investment. Yes, people get more into investment. You have people with a lot more money in other investments, but for the average person, their home is their largest investment they sit on. So it's really important when they get ready to sell it that they can capitalize on that, and that they don't make a mistake, because the whole thing is to step up in ownership until you get ready to retire. Then you want to kind of leverage that to go live somewhere in some quiet little place. So,
exactly.
Hey,
so once you have talked with a client and you've gone through the goals and you've explained kind of where you're headed and talked about, let's take advantage of some changing opportunities. What do you explain to them is your main competitive advantage that sets you apart from other choices out there? Anyone can data entry and type in an address into the MLS. That's easy. But what do you do to take it to the next level to make sure that their house gets sold for the highest possible amount?
So I think on marketing of the house, probably the biggest thing I do is kind of take that same strategy of looking for the opportunity to think, what is this property's best points? Is it got horse property? Is it up in the mountains? Is it small with a master bedroom on the main level? What is that? And then figure out, okay, there is a group of people that is looking just for that. Where would they be found? And try to market into those non-traditional, right? Especially because when I first started real estate, before I even had my license, as I was coming out of high school, we had real estate books. You had to look them up in a phone book and drive it around and stuff. And, and then it went electronic, which was genius. But, so now anybody can search for a property. We've had Zillow and all of them come along that you can do anything you want. I have an app that a buyer can search from, and a seller can search from. But so it's flooded. And so to make my seller's property stand out, I want to think, okay, if it's a large horse property, I'm going to put an ad if I need to in some of the horse trade things, or if there's a local thing going on, this time of year here, you've got a bunch of rodeo stuff going on in the summer. That would be a good fit because you're going to find them in places they normally aren't looking. Likewise, if it's a single home with the master on the main, that's really big in the over 55 community, and something that as people scale down, so I'm going to steer that towards that area, and what those kind of people and clients are looking at. And so that is kind of where I try to take that same opportunity and reverse engineer it, basically.
Yes. That's a really good point is, in business, you want to know the competitive advantage of your product or service, and then you want to know all the attributes about your target audience so that you can effectively communicate how your product or service solves the problem that the target audience has. That's exactly what you just described. Hey, here's all the benefits of this home, and now who would be the best group of people to buy it? Now let's communicate the attributes of this home to those people that would be in the best chance to buy it, and then now opportunity arises for those people to buy it, which then benefits your seller.
Yeah, because trying to get them, as many people to look at it and the interest generated is always, the highest thing. We had some strategies when the market was really hot that, made it pretty easy as an agent to sell the property. It was more negotiating the end transaction where the experience came in. But now we just try to, that's kind of changed a little bit. And so making sure that you have the right eyes rather than just stick it in the MLS, let Zillow market it, put it on Facebook, social media. All those things are really good, but you want to narrow down the person that most likely is going to land where your property is and try to make your smaller group, you can do a little bit of focused marketing for them.
Yes. Excellent. That makes so much sense. And I think it's a really neat, fresh approach because so many times the real estate professionals out there tend to be those order takers, like, oh, you need to buy, here you go, next. Oh, you need to sell, fill this out, next. And you take such a new and fresh approach to finding out what they really, really need. So I really think that that's so wonderful. So Cindy, what is the best way someone that is listening to this going, you know what, maybe I need that little fresh approach and talk to Cindy before I list my home and get it ready for sale? What's the best way that they can reach out and connect with you?
Yeah, a couple of different ways. I do have available a goal sheet for my seller audience that is really an investment real estate goal sheet of where we want to go that I do before we look at the property and stuff. So we're making sure we have that covered before we move into it. They can reach me on my website, Wasatch Front Life, at Cindy at Wasatch Front Life, or you can call me directly at 801-319-0026.
Excellent. Well, Cindy, thank you so much for coming on. It was a real pleasure talking with you today.
No, it was great. Thanks for the opportunity, Mike.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.